everybody, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be doing our part 2 of the Goodreads Choice Awards videos because we really need to talk about the elephant in the room. Now that the excitement has kind of worn down, I've voted, I've gotten together what I'm going to be reading for the Goodreads Choice Awards, and we gotta talk about the bad. We gotta talk about the bad. And that is obviously the snubs. There were quite a few. And I specifically want to talk about cutting out 3 specific categories. We cut out graphic novels, which is a travesty because I've read 3 graphic novels and I want to say all 3 were 4 or 5 stars. They also cut out children's fiction, which is like, why? And they cut out middle grade. Why would you do that? That just doesn't feel okay. I wonder if it's because, well, I mean, it doesn't matter if children aren't voting. Tons of your older audience reads middle grade, and maybe not children's books, but parents read children's books, and they can vote for what children's books they think are the best. So I don't understand why they thought it was a good idea to cut those 3 categories out, because I actually think there's a lack of categories. I feel like they don't want to put too many categories in to not overwhelm the system, but I actually think there is a general lack of choices, especially when you get into the young adult, younger side of things. So I personally think that there should be because right now they have regular young adult and young adult fantasy. I also think there should be a young adult horror category because there are a ton of amazing young adult horror books, and that I read a lot of those. Like, I read so many of those, and not a single one was put into any category, like not fiction, not fantasy, because they don't fit in either one of them. So I was hugely disappointed in that. I have a couple of snubs from there. And then there really needs to be middle grade literature fiction and middle grade fantasy. No, I guess not really horror, but there are some horror books that people really like. But there should be 2 categories for middle grade as well, because they're so different, and there's so many books in middle grade and so many people love them. I mean, just look at the Percy Jackson series. There was no, like, Rick Riordan came out with a new book this year, I believe, and that's nowhere to be found because there's no middle grade category. And yeah, maybe it would have won automatically by default, but so many people have read that who are not necessarily middle grade readers. So I think it's a huge disservice, at least, to get rid of the middle grade category. And like I said, the graphic novel one really pisses me off because Heartstopper, are you kidding me? I know a new one hasn't come out yet. It's not gonna come out until the end of this year. But if they took out graphic novels this year and they put it in next year when Heartstopper's back in, that's not fair because Heartstopper will always win. That's not fair. And there were so many good graphic novel like books this year. There was choices. Like, just because Heartstopper doesn't exist this year doesn't mean that you shouldn't put it in. Like, there's plenty of other good choices. Trust me, I've read quite a few. I'm quite upset about that. And I didn't even notice it because I don't read middle grade and I don't read children's books, but I normally still looked at them, like, see if I was interested in any, because that's the other thing. When you look at the Goodreads Choice Awards, I'm opening my computer, by the way, if I get distracted, because I gotta pull up Goodreads. A lot of people use the Goodreads Choice Awards to see what they want to read potentially in a category that they're not, like, super comfortable with. I don't think it's fair to, like, middle grade authors and children's authors to not include those, because now there's even a lesser chance of people who don't read middle grade, like, they're not going to look at it. Because I normally look at it and I normally go, oh, maybe I will like this middle grade book. I might like this middle grade book. And you never know what you're going to find on there. So I think that is a huge miss from Goodreads. All right, now that I've gotten that rant out of the way, like, why would you still include humor? And like, I don't know that many people at all who read humor, but tons of people read middle grade. Bizarre. I feel like if you were to get rid of anything, it would be humor over an entire category of, like, not just a genre, a whole section of books. Like, that's, like, it's a whole section of a bookstore, like a huge section of it. That is so weird. I don't know what possessed them to do that. All right, we are back on the Goodreads main channel. I'm sorry it's dark in here again. I still haven't fixed my light that goes with this, like, mini camera, so the quality is just gonna not would be great. But I also don't want to stand the whole time I'm doing this because it's just such a pain in the butt. So I'm sorry if you didn't like the other video either, because this is going to be similar quality. But my other videos are going to go back to normal because they're easier to do standing up. Okay, so after we talked about the snubs of the whole categories, let's talk about the individual categories. Now, I don't have anything for fiction or historical fiction. And I don't have anything for mystery thriller because I feel like we were lacking mystery thriller choices this year. I was going back and looking through them earlier today, like kind of thinking about snubs. And these are snubs that I've read. Like, that's the thing. I'm not going to really be talking about snubs that I haven't read. So it's a small list. Like, this isn't going to be super long. So yeah, it is specifically what I've read. So I actually had two that I wanted to talk about that weren't added. I thought they were going to be, but they weren't. My dog was licking his foot from the other room and I could hear it. And he's got skin problems, so we're not allowed to let him lick, or he will lick a sore onto himself. Okay, so like I was saying, there are two books that were not added, and I was super happy they weren't added. So I quickly wanted to talk about those. There's only two of them, but it is in the mystery thriller category, and I just wanted to double check I wasn't imagining things. But yeah, I thought Dark Corners by Megan, is it Megan Golden? Was going to be added, and it was not good. I thought just because the sheer number of people who read it, it would make it in. But what was the rating? Because they do have that rule about ratings. Yeah, because this came out this year, 3.86 with 17,000 ratings. I'm actually quite surprised this did not make it in, but I hated this. I thought this was so bad compared to the Night Swim, even not compared to the Night Swim, it was really bad. So I was really happy that one was not included. And then the other one I was really happy was not included in either the mystery thriller or the science fiction category, because I think it falls more to science fiction in my opinion, is My Murder. And it's still it's above the cutoff, and it was June 6, 2023. I gave it 1 star. This is gonna be on my worst books list. Yeah, I was so happy to not see this one. Again, very surprised because this was a book of the month choice and people seemed to love it online. Like, I feel like I was definitely in the minority of who didn't like it, but I had very, very specific reasons for not liking this, which I'm not going to get into. But I'm very happy that those two were not in any of the categories because I would have been very angry. But speaking of which, I talked about it before, but I 1000% do not believe that I Have Some Questions for You should be on here. It is, number one, it's not science fiction mystery. It's just not. It's so bad. It's got a 3.65, 75,000 ratings. Was this a Reese pick? Is that why? That has so many ratings on it. I don't get it. This was so bad. It was so bad. And I get that this author is I don't know if she's won the Pulitzer, but she was a Pulitzer nominated at least author. I don't get, it was so bad. This is probably my worst book of the year up to this point so far. So again, another one you're going to see on the I don't get this one. There was nothing good about this book, and it makes me very mad that something else that was probably better was not included on here. Because I did notice the writing retreat wasn't on here, but I think it's lower than the average. And again, The Housemaid Secret, I talked about it. I've heard nothing but terrible things. It's got a 4.29 though, 284,000 ratings. I may have to read this one just to have my own opinion on it, because I didn't read it because people said it was bad, but now I'm like, so I'm suspicious about that one now. Moving on to, I'm trying to think what my snubs were. I don't think I had any in romance. Yeah, these seemed about right to me. I just don't read that much romance. And then, okay, romantasy, I did have one snub. I had one snub. So I definitely looked up the rules because I know there's like cutoffs for stuff. And it's from November 15th or I think it's November 17th, 2022 to November 15th, 2023. And that means Iron Flame should be on here. Like, Iron Flame should be on this list, and it is not. I was shocked, but I'm also curious if there wasn't enough arcs put out, because I really didn't hear about many people reading Iron Flame before it came out. So I'm curious if they withheld arcs, because I noticed Bookshops and Bone Dust was in their category, 103,000 ratings. And it came out November 7th. I feel like this should have been included. This feels like they did this on purpose. This feels like they didn't want Fourth Wing and Iron Flame in the same category, so they just didn't include this one, because this should have been in there. This technically is a snub. I get Fourth Wing is in there, so it's not really a snub to the author, but technically this book was snubbed. It came out November 7th and it should have been in the running. I think that's it for Romantasy. Although it's sad, I also have a bone to pick with some people, because I'm in a bunch of book groups on Facebook, and this is gonna rub people the wrong way. People who don't like Fourth Wing, because there's plenty of people who watch my channel who don't like Fourth Wing. This is going to rub people the wrong way, so you might want to skip it. But I think some people are being very judgmental and very pretentious when it comes to fantasy lately. I am getting so frustrated with the book people who are reading Fourth Wing or not reading Fourth Wing. That is what baffles me the most, is it seemed like most of these people commenting on this thing, on this post, were people who hadn't read Fourth Wing. But the post was something like, I love how they made a whole category for Romantasy just for Fourth Wing. And it's like, you obviously don't know what's going on in the book world right now, because Romantasy probably should have been a category a couple years ago. That way it wasn't taking over the fantasy category. But just because something is Romantasy does not make it any worse of a book than a fantasy book. The pretentiousness of fantasy readers. I say that as a fantasy reader, because I look down on some of these books. I look at Zodiac Academy and I'm just like, that's trash. It's trash. It's not real fantasy. You know what? I'm wrong to think that way. Yeah, maybe I don't like the content in it and I think it could be more plot heavy instead of smut heavy, but it's still fantasy. It's like adult fantasy readers saying young adult fantasy is not fantasy. That's wrong to think that way. That is not being a supportive book community. And I was so upset with seeing like them just trash Fourth Wing because it's listed in Romantasy, when I personally think it could have been in the fantasy category. Because to me, Romantasy and fantasy, again, are very close, and it depends what you have more of. So to me, looking at this, like Bookshops and Bone Dust, to me is cozy fantasy. Does that mean it's not real fantasy? Encyclopedia of Fairies, again, another cozy fantasy that is romance heavy. There's just no smut in it. But should that actually be in Romantasy instead of fantasy? Because it is heavy romance. Same with Tress in the Emerald Sea. Is that really fantasy? Is it cozy fantasy? Or there's so many things you can nitpick about fantasy specifically that you can't make everyone happy. And don't trash a book to that extent of you being bitter about the Goodreads Choice Awards if you haven't even read it yet. I tried not to do that, and I don't think I did, but if I did, call me out on it. But the fact that people are so mad at there being a Romantasy category because it's not real fantasy is just, you're being ridiculous. And I'm gonna get some hate for that, but I don't really care, because I'm sick of people bringing other readers down just because they like something. If you like something and you're reading, that's better than most of the population. So you keep reading what you want to read, okay? And it is real fantasy if it says it's fantasy. So that's just frustrating. Anyway, moving on. That's all pretty much I had to say about the Romantasy category. It was just Iron Flame was a snub. I don't think there's anything in fantasy that I thought there was a snub. I tried to list stuff out. What is next? Science fiction. I do have a snub in science fiction. Most of my snubs are young adult books. Yes, I have a snub in science fiction. It is the Frugal Guide's Handbook. God, what is the whole name? Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. A lot of people... Okay, so the problem with this book is a lot of the wrong people read it. So this book really is science fiction to me. Like, this was listed as a fantasy, but this read so science fiction. It was more about like alternate realities. And yes, there was a fantasy aspect to it, but again, the alternate realities is what explained it. So technically that could have been in the fantasy category as well. Either way, it's a snub either way. It was not included. I gave it 4.5 stars. My husband gave it a 5-star. It just went to like the wrong group of people because it was one of the secret projects. So it went to a lot of people who don't necessarily like the type of humor that was in this book, because this was a humor science fiction book, really. And that's kind of what hurt it, because again, it went to a lot of high fantasy type reader people. So I definitely see why people did not like this one. But I think it's because it went to the wrong category. And I still think it should have been involved, because I think there was still a lot of votes on it. 3.79 with 28,000 ratings. And I think that's good enough that it probably should have been included in the science fiction category over some of these other ones that I haven't even heard of before. I'm trying to see just what, yeah, this one has 1,000 ratings with 3.86. So I definitely feel like the Frugal Wizard's Handbook was a bit of a snub. Okay, we are moving on to the horror category, which I have a big one. I have a big snub for this round, and I didn't even notice it while I was going through because I didn't realize it was a book from this year. For some reason, it felt like I read it so long ago. But The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw is one of the better books I've read this year. It was a 5-star. Absolutely obsessed with it. It was so good. Let me pull it up, because I feel like not a lot of you have heard about this one. 8,000 ratings and 3.65. This was phenomenal. It was so good, abstract. The problem is Cassandra Khaw is just not a popular writer, and her writing is very niche and can be very, it's the same person as Nothing But Black and Teeth. And a lot of people did not like that one. So a lot of people didn't want to give any of her other books a chance. And this does have similar writing to Nothing But Black and Teeth. I actually liked Nothing But Black and Teeth. I think I gave it a 3.75. So I think if you wanted to give another Cassandra Khaw a chance, I would definitely try this one. It's very different. It's not as gruesome, and it's almost a fairy tale-esque, a dark fairy tale that's happening, which I absolutely loved. So I was very pleasantly, shockingly surprised by this one, and I sobbed at the end of this one. This one had such a huge emotional impact for being like a novella. It was so good. So I'm really sad that this one didn't make it in. I thought this one was really, really great. Okay, now we are on to, see, this is the hard part. I'm going to talk about it in this category because there is no young adult horror or thriller mystery category. That's the other thing. I think there needs to be a separate category of thriller, mystery, horror for young adult fiction, because I have quite a few that were not included because there's just so many fantasy books. It's literally, I know it says fantasy, there's not even any science fiction in here. This is the only fantasy, but there's nowhere to put mystery thrillers, because I guess there should be included in this one. So yeah, because 5 Survive is in here and One of Us is back. So I'll talk about it in this category. There were quite a few snubs from this category, and the first one was The Borrow a Boyfriend Club. This one was so good. I think it's because not a lot of people read it. This one was absolutely adorable. I was shocked how much I loved this one. 4.3, yeah, 595 ratings. That's why. This did not get a lot of exposure, but this was a huge surprise to me. I give it a 4-star. I really enjoyed this one. I wish more people had read it. So technically, I guess it's not a snub because not enough people read it, but I'm going to count it anyway for my snubs. Next one is a huge, to me, was a travesty that this was not included. And I think it's because it's a young adult horror. And that's why I want a separate category, because then you can include more books instead of just the most popular. So I'm Not Supposed to Be in the Dark is one of my favorite books this year. I think I gave it a 4.5. Again, only 248 ratings. I'm sitting here like, what? I'm so surprised. This was such a good book. Now I'm sitting here like, what is happening? So again, technically not a snub, but this was amazing. This book was so good. I highly recommend this one. This one was so much fun. I had a great time with this one. This one was would have been a great Halloween read. I think I read it the month previously, but I absolutely love this one. I had a great time. And then this one was really good. Their Vicious Games is another mystery. I gave it another 4 star. See, this to me is a true snub. It's 4 stars and it has 3,000 ratings. That is plenty to be included in the Goodreads Choice Awards. This one to me is purely because there was other more popular things, the fantasy books, and other like just contemporary stuff, because less people do read, I feel like, the horror side of young adult. So there needs to be a separate category. This definitely would have been included if there was a separate category. This was amazing. Again, this one should have been included. I'm very sad that this one wasn't. And then we are on to graphic novels. Now, obviously there is no category, so I'm just gonna show you the books that were 1000% snubbed. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4. It doesn't just need to be young adult. Like, I included Lore Olympus because Lore Olympus came out this year. That obviously would have been included, but because there's no graphic novel section, that, I mean, complete snub. Because we all know how good Lore Olympus books are. That should have probably made it into the Goodreads Choice Awards and also probably would have won it. So that's very disappointing, because if there's a Lore Olympus that comes out next year, which I assume there will be, Heartstopper will be out, and Heartstopper will 99% likely win. So that kind of just robs this author of a chance to win a Goodreads Choice Awards when it's a less popular year for graphic novels, just because Heartstopper's not out. That's disappointing, because a lot of people who read Heartstopper don't read other graphic novels just because they're so good. And I'm not saying it shouldn't win, because it could. It should. They're so good. But you need to have off years so that other graphic novels get to like shine. So that's just upsetting. The other one, the rest are all young adult graphic novels. So I loved this one. I just read this. I just bought this one. Hockey Girl Loves Drama Boy. This is so cute. This, I think I gave this a 4 star. Yeah, this one was so much fun. 771 ratings with 4 stars. And that's the other reason they need a separate category, because people just don't know these exist. I purposely was looking for these, so that's the only reason I knew that it exists, but I'm obsessed with this book. It's so cute. I love it. It's like a gender bent kind of thing going on. You have a more masculine type woman and a more feminine type boy. So it was so cute. It was so cute. Yes, I highly recommend that one. And then one of my 5 stars was The Princess and the Grilled Cheese. This one was phenomenal. I gave this a 5 star. I loved this book. 6,000 ratings. See, this is what I'm talking about. There's in a 4.5. There is no reason that this should not have been in a graphic novel category and could have won. Like, I get Lore Olympus is really good, but I want to say the most recent Lore Olympus was, I haven't even bought it yet because I read it on I was ahead on Webtoon. So I stopped reading there so I would be more surprised when these came out. This only has a 4.5 with 8,000 reviews. So the Grilled Cheese book could have won. And that probably would have made, I know Goodreads Choice Awards aren't like a big, well actually they are, because all the authors like Stephanie Garber and Carrie Maniscalco were posting about it. Like, vote for me, I'm so excited, oh my God. So that would have been so exciting for a unknown author, really, for them to be nominated. That would have been so amazing. So that just took away excitement from some people. That's just very disappointing. So North Anger was my last one. This is gonna be hard to find because it's a take on, oh man, it's gonna be hard to find. Okay, literally had to go to Google and look it up. Okay, so North Ranger, because it's a take on Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, and it's adorable. It's so cute, and it's actually like listed as kind of a horror. It's not really, it's more like they like horror movies and some creepy stuff is going on. I gave this a 4 star, 1,000 ratings. This easily could have been in the Graphic Novel Choice Awards. So I'm so disappointed. There's some really, really good ones on here that are definite snubs, and it definitely, I would say, Iron Flame, huge snub. I don't understand that one, how it was not included. All the graphic novels, there were so many good choices, and just completely being left out is a travesty. And Frugal Wizard's Handbook, I think, is a big snub as well. I feel like not a lot of people are going to agree, but I think that is a snub. The other one's kind of iffy just because of the view count. Although, no, I still think The Salt Grows Heavy was also a snub. So there were quite a few snubs and quite a few disappointments that it took me some time to like realize were there. So that's why I wanted my immediate reaction to the Goodreads Choice Awards, which is the other video. This is more in-depth what went wrong kind of thing going on. So that is everything that I have today for this video. I'm upset, like I've worked myself up about this. I'm very mad about it. But anyway, make sure you let me know down in the comments below if you thought there were any snubs that I'm missing. I just really did the ones that I read, so I'm probably missing plenty. Let me know which books, again, you enjoyed, thought were a snub. If you think they did a good job, what you think about the missing categories. I'm seeing a lot of people complaining about that, so I'm glad people are upset about it and talking about it, because hopefully they'll reinstate them next year and not take anything away. Like, people don't mind voting. It's fun. We don't care how long the Goodreads Choice Awards are. You're not gonna make us bored by having too many categories. You're just not. It's not a thing. So put as many categories as you want and we'll love it. So that, I feel like that's the problem. They thought it was getting too long. For some reason, I don't understand that. But anyway, see, I'm just keep going. I keep going. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, like the video, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future content, like book unboxings, the eventual young adult reading vlog, which I'm potentially working on another Goodreads vlog. I think it's gonna be too much if I do both, but I was toying with the idea. I saw someone in the comments, I don't remember who the comment was from, but they said that I could also do like one book per category, and I'm like, I kind of like that idea. I wouldn't do nonfiction or humor. I would only do the ones that I'm interested in or I already have books for, because I'm trying not to buy books. I'm trying not to buy books. So I'm teasing the idea of doing that on the side, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see, because I also might do a video of doing the winners, because that'll be towards the end of the year. So I don't know. I don't have enough time to do all that. That is a lot. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.